Hey, welcome everybody. We are going to be playing Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry. We're starting near Saint Domingue, 1735. I kind of forgot about this. But after this we're going to do Rogue, and then we'll move on to something else, I think. So please enjoy.
The parcel is with the Templar admiral on the lead ship, Captain. Once he gives the orders, it will be lost.
Alright, so we have Adewale, born 1692 in Trinidad, and he died unknown date and place. Born to enslaved Ogani parents in Yoruba, Adewale was sold to the owner of a prosperous plantation before his teens. He remained on this plantation, working the fields until his mid-teens, always scheming of ways to escape his predicament, but uneasy with the prospect of living a life as a fugitive. When fortune struck, giving Adewale the sign he needed, at some point near his 16th birthday, a group of buccaneers raided the plantation, robbing it of raw cane, refined cane, and as many reals as they could find. Seeing in this an opportunity, Ade grabbed a crate of sugar and hauled it aboard one of the longboats the buccaneers had rowed ashore, but not before killing his master. Surprised to see a slave among them, the buccaneers were nevertheless thankful for the aid and welcomed Ade among them. Ade sailed with this first group of men for many years, quickly learning the ways of a seaman. Grateful for the chance to develop his own skills and chase his own passions, and though life among buccaneers was not free of the usual bigotry of the era, Ade found the prejudice to be more confrontational than restrictive. In 1715, misfortune struck a cruel blow when the ship Ade was aboard struck a shallow sandbar near the port of Amana. The buccaneers, mostly British at the time, tried desperately to free the trapped vessel, but after catching sight of an approaching Spanish galleon, abandoned the ship, only to be torn apart by schools of circling bull sharks. Ade made peace with his fate and stood his ground. Taken to Havana for questioning and inspection, Spanish authorities eventually decided to send Adewale to Spain, where they felt he would make an excellent interpreter, owing to his fluent command of Spanish, English, and French. Some weeks later, they loaded him into one of the galleons that made up their perennial treasure convoy en route to Seville. Thanks in large part to a hurricane, however, that trip never took place. With the aid of a young Welsh pirate named Edward Kenway, Ade escaped the bilboes that bound him, freeing more prisoners as they went. Ade and Edward commandeered a brigantine and set sail just in time to beat the worst of the storm. When the hurricane passed, Ade was free once more. From that point forward, Ade sailed as the quartermaster aboard Captain Edward's ship, the Jackdaw, operating out of Nassau for a time. They grew wealthy off their spoils and lived the lives they had always dreamed, but Ade was a man who valued the democratic ideals of this pirate community far above the spoils they acquired while living it. And as he saw Edward Kenway fall deeper and deeper into a spiral of selfish greed and pointless glory, he wondered if there wasn't a better alternative. a more noble cause he might adopt to suit his ideals. In 1720, these very ideals were put to the test when Captain Kenway sailed to a meeting with the notorious Bartholomew Roberts. Adewale had never trusted Roberts and had hoped Edward might come to the same conclusion before it was too late. Unfortunately, Ade's instincts were correct, and Edward's absence, Roberts' enormous crew attacked the Jackdaw, hoping to subdue her. Ade took command of the brig and sailed her and her crew to safety, regretting the loss of his captain, but confident he made the right decision. Some months later, Adewale resolved to meet with Atabai at the assassin's village in Tulum. There he spoke at length with the old mentor and asked him many questions about their order. After hearing answers that pleased him greatly, Ade joined the order, then set about devising a scheme to locate his old captain. Months later, Adewale and the assassins got word that Edward Kenway had been languished for many months in a prison in Port Royal. They learned, too, that Mary Read and Anne Bonny had also been taken there. Ade and Atabai put a plan in motion to rescue them. After the escape, a tragic success, Ade returned the Jackdaw intact to Captain Kenway and bade him visit the assassins as soon as he was able. For over 15 years, Adewale faithfully served the assassins, but in time he became increasingly troubled by memories of his past. In 1735, while performing a routine takedown of a Templar admiral off the coast of Saint Domingue, he was thrown overboard and washed ashore near Port-au-Prince. Next up, we have Saint Domingue, originally known as a hunting ground for the Taino and Carib peoples. The island of Hispaniola was first colonized by Christopher Columbus in 1492 in the name of Spain. In 1501, the colony began importing African slaves. The early 17th century brought French pirates seeking to establish their own secret bases on the abandoned northern and western coasts of the island. In 1665, French colonization was officially recognized by King Louis the 14th, renaming their colony Saint Domingue. And in 1697, under the Treaty of Ryswick, Spain was forced to hand over their rights to the island to France. A slave-based society was constructed around the production of sugarcane to satisfy European demands for sugar. The island was nicknamed the Pearl of Antilles. It became the wealthiest colony in the West Indies. Note, we could use the weather to manipulate the ambiance. Tropical storms, torrential rainfall, high winds, hurricanes, and large waves. Signed, ML. And then another note, yes, because these people didn't already have enough problems, let's throw the weather at them, too. Signed, RL.
The parcel itself is less interesting than its intended recipient. Let's eliminate this errand boy admiral and unmask the true Templar threat. When I became an assassin, I swore to leave piracy behind. But the old methods have served the creed more than once. Everything is permitted after all, Captain. Aye, and often it is necessary.
Yeah, Ade, you don't pronounce the T in the word often. It's often, not often. You don't say knife, do you?
You heard the captain! Ready to fire!
That's a relatively new thing that when people say often, and I don't know why. I mean, it says right there in the dictionary that you don't pronounce the T. Like the pronunciation of it says often. Anyways, enough of that rant. Did Edward give the jackdaw to Adewale after he left for safekeeping? We really were running with Anne Bonnie, so it's weird that we have the jackdaw at all right now. But maybe not. Anne probably has her own thing going on now. And who else are you gonna give it to besides your best mate? I hope it's fully upgraded. By reading what we just read, I have a feeling things are gonna go bad. Seems okay though. It appears that our crew is made up of freed slaves. There's nothing wrong with that. Chances are they don't know how to sail, so this would have taken a long time to train them all. But Adewale's a smart guy when it comes to this, and he speaks several different languages, so hopefully he could speak whatever language they're speaking. And the training was an easy task. Alright, next we gotta board or sink the Templar ship. I think... well, let's board. Looks like we are fully upgraded. I got the little golden cannons. Oh, the Victory. I mean, okay, I guess. We could have changed the name, I guess, but... give the jackdaw to me. I guess if we paid attention to the dates, or if I looked it up, I would know that that's the jackdaw renamed or something like that. I doubt that it is, but yeah. At least if something does happen, it's not the jackdaw going down. It's only an exact replica with a different nameplate. I'm sure the people that created this game just were like, let's just use that ship. That's a good idea. On the other hand, it could be the jackdaw renamed. I wouldn't want the jackdaw renamed because I did a lot of work to get it to where it was. And if it does go down, I have a feeling it's gonna. You guys watch. That would upset me. Oh, awesome! We gotta go below. Oh, it's on fire down here, guys. It appears to just be another copy and paste from one of the other ships that we were in, which is fine. That's fine. Well, more or less a copy and paste. I guess they had to make it all messy. Don't shoot me! And that's what you get. Shoulder bump you. Anyways, yeah, it makes it easy, I'm sure. I mean, to be honest, are all the Assassin's Creed games just kind of a copy-paste? I know they're not, but they're close.
Bastien Joseph, Port-au-Prince. What business do Templars have there? Captain! More French vessels at our tail! Too many! We'll retreat through the storm! We will be smashed ashore! A worse fate awaits if we let this land in Templar hands! Aye, Captain! Rescue yourselves! I must stay with the ship! No, I will stay with you! You'll find the distress! They've hit us! They're close! On your mark! Loaded! They draw ever closer! Waiting on us!
Took quite a bit of damage back there.
They are gaining on us!
Well, they're gonna have to get through this storm.
The mortar! Hit from rain!
Come on, Adewale. This is child's play. Remember that big storm we were in? It was like a hurricane or something when you first met Edward. Let's do that. Or you're not as good as Edward.
Storm straight from hell!
In his defense, Edward was sailing long before he was. Or maybe not, I guess, because he was with that, the Buccaneers or whatever, so maybe they have about the same amount of experience. Either way, the ship's been damaged. Whoa, I thought that was like a cliff. Oh, our ship repaired itself. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, allez, mon les miso, katalai.
Sale truie! Non! Ça te coûtera une oreille! Bah, John. Templar can wait. This woman must not suffer.
Agreed.
Arrête de courir, salope, ou je te tranche les deux oreilles!
While we're pulling that guy, we can read about the machete. It is a large knife, and it can be used either as a tool or weapon, and the blade can vary in length. Machetes are frequently used to cut through undergrowth, trim vegetation, harvest sugarcane, and cut open fruit. They were convenient as a weapon because they were used so frequently, making them easily attainable on plantations. We missed a person here, or rather classes of people. Maroons were people from the West Indies, Central America, South America, and North America that escaped slavery and formed and settled communities away from their oppressors, although the African slaves were not the first to be treated so badly. The Tiano tribes that first inhabited Saint Domingue were abused and bullied into submission by the Spanish. Refusing to work for them, the Taino people were the first to settle the mountains and later made room for fugitive slaves. Most of the slaves in Saint Domingue fled to the mountains to hide from their oppressors and start new lives, often based on subsistence agriculture and survival hunting. Some became warriors and fought for independence and the freedom of other slaves. Maroons were known to raise crops, attempt to scare off plantation owners and overseers, loot and conduct violent raids on nearby sugar and coffee plantations. But although these bands of Maroon warriors grew in size, they, more often than not, lacked the leadership to carry through a large-scale objective. Not surprisingly, the Code Noir still sided with masters. They were given a great deal of liberty in their retaliation methods. Plantation slaves were killed in an attempt to keep the Maroons at bay. Many of the attackers were slaughtered, and the death penalty was given out as a common form of punishment. That's unfortunate, I would have to say myself. Maroons in Saint Domingue were ultimately responsible for one of the few successful slave uprisings in history, and the only one to result in the founding of a free state, the Republic of Haiti, after a century of effort and more than one attempt. Maroons are not to be confused with other black populations in Saint Domingue at the time. Freedmen are slaves who were freed legally through emancipation or manumission, and gens de couleur, or people of color, who were born free or freed at birth. Signed DM. If anything signed OG, we'll know that something is up, because I'm pretty sure that, like it said, this happened after the events of 4.
Merci, bon Dieu. Désolé. I have nothing to offer but thanks.
Nothing else is needed. As a boy, I fled the same fate.
Why would you risk recapture?
Men of principle know the bigger risk is to turn away. I'm looking for Bastian Joseph. Do you know her?
Moi-même, pas qu'on elle. But any fine gentleman may lead you to her. Too late for this one. Find another in town.
The thanks is now mine. Do you have a place of refuge?
My family waits in the mountains. Démon, Gemon.
Que Dieu soit avec vous.
Overseers, plantation owners in the colonies were generally wealthy, white Europeans ruling in absentia most of the time. They delegated their authority to overseers who controlled the day-to-day production of the plantation. The overseers were the people in charge of running the plantation's day-to-day activities, administering discipline, and often acting in place of the true owners. They sound like real gems. I know what they meant by discipline. Let's see, what do we got? Slavery in Saint Domingue. Hispaniola was first home to Taino tribes who suffered abuse, disease, and slavery after first contact with the Spanish, ultimately reducing their population to an estimated 500 people by 1548. With native populations waning, colonies looked for other sources of manual labor to help supply Europe's growing demand for goods. They turned to Africa. In French-controlled Saint Domingue, conditions were punishing, and birth rates for slaves were lower than death rates. Rather than improve conditions, the colony simply increased the rate at which it imported slaves. Yep, that's great, guys. I mean, they were looked at as property, not people, I guess, so it would make sense to just do that. I mean, it's wrong, but whatever. Continuing on. By the 18th century, Saint Domingue had become home of the largest slave society with the most brutal conditions in the world. Next up, we gotta head into town, or whatever this is, coming up here, and locate a gentleman. Spoiler alert, one's walking into town right now. I suppose we'll look at Port-au-Prince. Today, Port-au-Prince is known as the capital and largest city in Haiti, but it took a long time to get there, changing hands as interests shifted and power changed hands. A bustling center of commerce in the 1730s, the current Port-au-Prince area was part of the grand scheme of Saint Domingue, which was then home to over 140 sugar plantations. The English did not trouble the area during this decade, and various nobles sought land grants in Port-au-Prince from the French monarchy. African slaves outnumbered the rest of the population by a large margin. I'm sure it did. From a Maroon perspective, Port-au-Prince was significant as a trading location and major center for slave labor. It would also become a strategic target in the slave revolution that built in starts and stops throughout the 18th century, ultimately culminating in the founding of the Republic of Haiti. Nobody should find you there for a while. Might as well take this with us. People will think we just own this axe along with our machete that we happened to have a holster for. Somebody dropped their crate. That's money right there. I'm thinking we should probably head over to our objective, but okay, the Code Noir. The code was originally established in May of 1685 by King Louis XIV of France and enacted in March of 1687. It was a set of rules governing the rights and policies of slaves, and remained in effect until 1789. Articles of the code made Catholicism mandatory in French colonies, provided guidelines for slave punishments, and also included a number of articles designed to limit the mistreatment of slaves. Well, at least it had that. Masters were obligated to provide shelter, food, and clothing to their slaves, and were not allowed to torture or mutilate their workers, only beat them. Yeah, okay. I mean, so stupid. Why would this even be a thing? Alright, slave families were not to be sold separately. Care was to be given to the sick and dying. It was also stated that masters should only punish repeat offenders. But the code was never fully enforced, making way for all sorts of abuse. Most slave owners only adhered to the articles that benefited them. Some masters even became known for their cruelty and inventive methods of torture, and many violations were waived and overlooked. This was especially the case in Saint Domingue, when the pressures to remain the world leader in sugar and coffee production was felt most strongly by the slaves who provided all the necessary labor. Yeah, I mean, who are they going to go to? You know, their rep? You know, I got abused today. I just want to say that, and I'm taking it to HR. Like, none of these people asked for that. I understand we needed labor, and it needed to be cheap. You know, it's America, whatever. But there's a better way, for sure. Did I know? I don't know what it was. You know, I don't know the better way. But, you know, it wasn't this. And, I don't know. It's not like America's the only place that did this. They just tried to keep it around for a long time. And it's because there was a lot of land and a lot of plantations, and they needed cheap labor and stuff. But, you know, nobody deserves to be tortured or anything like that didn't do anything at all. You know. I don't know. But, you know, it's the past, and we gotta move on. We remember, and we think about it, and make sure that it doesn't ever happen again. And we keep it in the back of our minds. And I think, you know, that's really all we can do. Alright, let's try and look for our man while we're up here. Look at that.
I'm on my way there now to present.
Enjoy yourself, sir. And fear not, you'll meet no competition for me. My heart is too weak.
Alright, I didn't really hear what he said, but we could see it on the bottom there. So let's tail the gentleman to the brothel. You know, it keeps saying this thing right here. I'm wondering if maybe we weren't a slave of this area, or of a plantation around here, or maybe we just have markings on us of one. Did you see that? That person just disappeared. And we are still concerned about this guy going to the brothel. Maybe we should be concerned about the magic user. Right. What do we got here? Louis. Alright, so Louis Godin. 1705, died 1759. Louis was born in France and demonstrated academic ability early, publishing his astronomical tables in 1724 at the age of 19 and gaining admittance to the Academy of Francius, if I said that correctly. His success as a scientist led to his selection as leader of the geodesic expedition to Peru, but he proved to be a poor leader, simultaneously becoming thirsty for power and squandering expedition money on a prostitute from La Dame and Rose, with whom he fell in love while the expedition was stranded in Saint Domingue in 1732. The geodesic mission to the equator was a joint expedition to Peru by a team of French and Spanish scientists. Its purpose was to measure the circumference of the Earth. Godin's expedition was only a partial success, its results ultimately overshadowed by those of a simultaneous mission to the North Pole, but its data did allow scientists to confirm the oblate shape of the Earth, which allowed sailors like Adewale to plan their travels more accurately, thus reducing costs and risks. Alright, so there's some more tailing going on. Maybe that's the brothel right there, who knows? It looks like it, I guess. Oh yeah, that's 100% it. Alright, let's go on in. Alright, we gotta hang out and eavesdrop.
You think me a traitor?
Slaves would be safer for it.
Monsieur Gouverneur, they felt safe at the plantation. Do you think they would rebel?
Of course. It's their animal nature. Violence is the only currency that motivates them. Like coin. If you really want to protect your African friends, spread the word. Quiet them down. Otherwise...
You need not describe. I know what you do.
Well, I could not raise a hand to hurt a fly. But the overseers have every right to discipline as they see fit.
Will not be necessary. I will deliver your message. The cost will be high.
We will both profit by it.
Is there any other service you require, Gouverneur?
Oh, an old man like me. I dare say Guzan has exhausted me already.
Then show yourself out.
I feel like we didn't fit in very well. Okay, we can approach this lady here and talk to her.
Madame Joseph. Expecting a package.
It. But not you. Where's l'admiral? I see. And do you mean for me to meet the same fate? Look around. One threat, and these men will end you.
I bring no threat. Tell me, how do the Templars allow you to carry on like this?
I am only the messenger. But before you judge, remember, the Templars' coin, like any, will buy the freedom of men like you. I know this mark.
You know nothing.
You have the brand of a slave, the eloquence of a scholar, hands of a sailor, and an assassin's hood. Few weapons. I think the storm stranded you. What do you need? A ship? Shelter? These things can be had for the price of this parcel.
I need nothing I can't win for myself. But prove that what you promise is true. And perhaps something can be arranged.
Is this your game? Very well. And you will do me a favor. Augustin Dufort is a very secretive man. First find his plantation contact and give him this message from the gouverneur. Augustin will give you all the proof you need. Repeat this password. Sili batoto krabla va manger.
Sili pas dodo, krabla va manger.
Pas mal. A convincing baritone. Now I suggest you leave before my admirers get suspicious.
I think she likes him. Alright, we can read about Bastien Joseph. She was born 1690, we don't know. They could have just said 1690s. Near Port-au-Prince and died unknown. She's an intelligent, outwardly going woman. She had many acquaintances and few friends, born free and raised by her mother, a prostitute, at La Dame en Rose. Bastien Joseph made her first friends by selling glimpses of illicit acts to local children. But was shunned and labeled as morally corrupt as a young teenager. Choosing to avoid prostitution herself, Bastien learned to read, write, and manage financial affairs. In time, she became the brothel madame's indispensable right-hand woman. In this capacity, she bore witness to all the secret dealings, deal-making, political manipulation, and scandal among the brothel's patrons, and learned the true power of the Madame of La Dame en Rose. Engaged once, she ultimately avoided the altar, realizing it would deprive her of the freedom she had carefully cultivated for herself. She instead inherited the brothel following her mentor's death and took private pleasure in seeing the bullies and hypocrites of her childhood become her paying patrons once more. Okay. In the successful business the previous Madame had built, Joseph saw potential for something more, doubling her business. She then used the brothel to undertake two types of action on behalf of Maroons and enslaved African. In Port-au-Prince, she used the proceeds to buy the freedom of slaves and used the confidential veil of the brothel itself in tandem with her control over the women who worked there to solicit political favors from powerful clients, including Governor de Fayette and the scientist Louis Gaudin. In 1735, she met Adewale for the first time, and the two became uneasy partners in helping Augustin Dufort and the Maroon cause. It does seem that a friendship developed between them, but it's unclear to what extent. Alright, so we gotta get to the plantation. But first, let's help out that guy running there.
I owe you my life.
And we liberated one slave. Alright, I have a feeling we're going to be doing quite a bit of that, considering that it was a big part of Adewale in the other game, and clearly in this one. Freeing slaves and stuff is a big part of his life. He doesn't want to see it, nor does, well, I mean, these guys, I guess, did, but, you know, nobody else wants to see it, so. I mean, he's running right back into town, so don't know if he's going to get away. Alright, let's go to the old plantation. Alright, after a while of running around, we get to the entrance. It gives us a little tutorial. Plantation raids are a good way to liberate many slaves simultaneously. You can find them near Port-au-Prince and the rest of the Caribbean. However, once a plantation has been successfully raided, it will become deserted until a new owner establishes himself in that location. I saw on the map earlier there's a bunch of these places. Alright, what do we got? We gotta activate Eagle Vision to find our target. There's a couple of database entries. We'll have to read about those in a while. But I think we will get through this.
I know this tune.
Plantation. I don't hear a tune yet. Oh, look at that. Oh, ah, yes. We must sing to her. She knows the code.
The wise man is down that path.
Thank you, sister.
Huh. What a weird little code phrase that we need to sing. Gotta get to this Maroon hideout. See what that's all about. It's very close to the plantation, apparently. And unfortunately for us, we gotta sneak through this place. There are some guards, but not too many. Not too many. Oh, this guy's suspicious of us. We're gonna take him out. Run, guys, run! Okay. I mean, in all fairness, I guess these guys had guns and stuff. I was gonna say they could just overwhelm these guys. If they had enough riots and stuff like that in these places and they refused to work, like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, are you really gonna kill everybody? These people, they deserve to be free and do as they wish. If they want to work on your plantation, pay them to work on your plantation. Alright, here we are, almost at the entrance. Hopefully the bad guys don't see us. I think they might have. For now, we're going to not deal with the liberation of this plantation. We will be back to it. Along with all the other ones. Uh-oh, fire just put out here. Let's see what we got going on. Seems like the Maroons are in a little bit of trouble. They were found, I guess. We have a couple of things here. The Montañas Noires, or the Black Mountains. That's a little easier. Located in the central part of western Hispaniola, were often used by Maroon warriors as a place of refuge, the treacherous landscape working to their advantage. Maroons escaped to the mountainous regions of the island to join previously established communities or start their own strongholds there. Fugitive slaves could freely raise crops and livestock, hidden and sheltered by the mountain face. Maroons were able to survive by sending traders to nearby cities or by raiding plantations for cloth, weapons, and food. The mountain's rough exterior made it extremely difficult for any surprise attacks from oppressors, and the high altitude was ideal for Maroon lookouts. Alright, the slave barracks were a common form of slave housing used in the 17th century. They were cheap and required little upkeep, which was ideal for plantation owners. Barracks were often constructed to look like wooden huts. Beds and furniture were not always allowed, forcing slaves to make makeshift beds out of planks or sleep on the floor. Slaves often created their own extended families, as so many were crammed into tiny living spaces, which played a role in strengthening bonds. Slaves were sometimes allowed to plant and harvest their own small cash crops just outside the barracks, as they were not often supplied enough food to survive. These gardens saved many slaves from starvation. The plantations must not have been that wealthy. But if we look at the plantation life on the Saint Domingue plantations was harsh. Slaves were tortured, violated, starved, made to live in shacks, and exhausted of all their energy. Everywhere on all plantations, domestic slaves catered to every need of their masters and overseers, and worked when they were told, despite what the Code Noir dictated. The lash, both its image and sound, was perhaps the most common memory of plantation life. Lashing was a very common form of punishment used to force and threaten slaves into doing work. They were also cajoled with food, clothing, and rest as incentives, and were sometimes given the freedom to raise their own livestock and crops. That being said, the conditions on the sugar plantation were brutal. During the eight-month sugar harvest, slaves were expected to work long hours until all the work was done, including on Sundays, which the code specifically set aside as a day of rest. Slaves collapsed from exhaustion regularly and sometimes got into horrible accidents with the primitive machinery used on the plantations. Slaves were considered to be pieces of property and were generally labeled as unskilled, though many slaves were skilled masons, metal workers, coopers, cooks, seamstresses, and nurses. Personal violations were also used as a method of control. Slaves were often relocated to other plantations without warning and were separated from friends, family members, and children. Many slaves were also... I don't know if I'm allowed to even say that word. That's unfortunate. None of this stopped the enslaved people from starting families and having social lives on the plantations. Friends and family units were created in the barracks, and children were reared and taught the dangers and risks of the harsh life they were brought into. These barracks were the focal point for developing slave communities. Religion also played a major part. Faith offered the slaves a form of escapism from their harsh lives and masters. Sometimes religious scripture was used as code among the followers, sparking more hope and sometimes rebellion. As dark as these times were, there was still a spark of hope among the people. That's so unfortunate, and stuff that anybody would have to live that way. I mean, it still kind of happens today, probably. Not here, I'd hope, but yeah. But according to Google, slavery is alive and well even today. Apparently, more than 50 million people are affected by slavery in some way, like actively affected in some way. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. We should be, hopefully, we gotta do something to stop that. I don't know what, but, you know, just like child trafficking and all these other really bad things that happen. Like, what the heck? And I'm sure those children that are child trafficked are brought into some form of that as well, or the other bad things that happen. Go, buddy. Help me. Help me fight your buddies. Alright, so we got 7 more targets to kill in here. Let's speed her up. Alright, that's our last one. We can talk to this gentleman here.
Do not let them escape. The river.
Alright.
Hurry before they bring more enemies.
Okay, alright, we'll do it. Oh my gosh, they're shooting at us. We can get them though, I think. Dude, stop shooting at me. That sign said stop. I think it meant to stop them, but I almost stopped. Oh, here we go, boys. You're in the wrong place now. I don't know why you rode that way.
Augustin, Dieu fort.
Blanc dit sans fait. Bon Dieu fait sans dit. The French governor is two-faced. Bastien helps as she can, but Maroons independence is long to build. Longer now. A warrior like you would be a great asset to our cause.
With due respect, I serve a different brotherhood, and am honor-bound to return as soon as I find the means.
But only the Iwa know when that will be. Meantime, I have sanctuary and weapons to share.
Perhaps our needs may align for a time. What do you need?
Recruits, liberated slaves. The warriors among them join me. The others grow the community for which we fight. Titapti Oiseau Fesoni.
I suppose I might lend a hand for a time.
Petit Bashi. I will see that you are rewarded for whatever you can give. Let's begin soon. There's much to do.
All right. With that, we're going to end the episode. It seems that our newfound friends' interests, or not interests, but goals, or whatever, align with our own, and so we can help them, and in turn, we help ourselves. But, yeah, we are going to continue on right where we leave off here. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Please do like, comment, subscribe. Dislike if you feel like you disliked. And do comment on why you disliked, if you did. Please comment about anything you'd like. I'd like to respond to the comments. About the game, about what you think, about what I said. If something irked you, if you agree with something, whatever, doesn't matter. Comment away. Again, thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.